okay? Because remember, when you go into the court, they're always saying, well, you better have a lawyer. Well, you know what they're saying by saying that, okay? And you can find this in the law books. It says, they're saying you're incompetent. Did you know that a lawyer is an officer of the court? Everybody knows that, I'll bet. Okay? Well, when you hire an officer of the court to represent you, you're turning yourself into a ward of the court. Did you know that? When you hire an officer of the court to represent you, you're turning yourself into a ward of the court. Wow. Did you know that? Did you know that a ward of the court is an imbecile? Did you know that? Did you know that? Yeah. So if some judge says, well, you better get a lawyer, that'd be the first thing I'd be saying is, so you're accusing me of being an imbecile? That'd be the first thing that'd be coming out of my mouth. Now I want to get this clear here, Judge. Are you accusing me of being an imbecile? Anyways, you're making them incompetent. You're telling them you're a person. You're converting yourself into a slave. It's either one or the other. There's nothing else. Either you're a slave or you're free. You're the king. Okay? There's nothing else. There's no sitting on the fence. What you see going on out here is a bunch of slaves, and they're gradually starting to squeeze. Okay? And taking their property. Okay? Because the government is not owned by we the people. The government is owned by a bunch of international bankster thieves, and I can prove it. And that's exactly what's happening. So you know, anyways, anytime you register for anything, that's what you're doing. Now, the king can do that, and it's a nullity. Okay? Like with my truck out there, okay? It's registered with the state of Texas, okay? But in my documentation, again, I tell them, I don't care whose plates are on it, because I'm the king. I'm putting my private vehicle sticker on there, and so therefore it's not a motor vehicle, it's a private vehicle, and I'm essentially taking it back, okay? Because the government cannot get the king into a contract by which he gives up his sovereignty, okay? So again, so the king can do that, and it doesn't mean anything, but you got to establish yourself as the king. And you still have to stay out of as many of those things as possible. Like definitely don't register to vote. I would never register. I revoked that a long time ago. There's certain things that you definitely stay away from. But as far as registering the vehicle, you know, that's not a big deal, quite frankly. You can, by establishing yourself as the king, because what happens now is, and the reason I know that works is because they have me down as sovereign in their system, right? So they see my license plate, their computer comes up, says, leave this guy alone. He's sovereign. You see what I'm saying? So that's saying that they know that it's a nullity. It means nothing. All statutes are written very carefully, and most do not apply to members of the sovereignty. 99% of the time, the government is technically correct. It's not up to the government to tell you that you're a member of the sovereignty. The government lawyers make up a statute that properly applies to those entities that they have jurisdiction over. The burden is on us to assert ourselves. If a member of the sovereignty gets unknowingly involved in something that operates as a contract by which he might lose his sovereignty, he's made a mistake of law and fact. The courts have ruled that it's not up to the government to protect the Constitution. If the government is not the protector of the Constitution, then who is? It's up to we the people. And how do we do that? We do that by challenging what the government does through the courts and administratively. And most of my stuff is all administrative, okay? I'm prepared to take it into court. I've been into court numerous times, and I'm sure as soon as they see stuff from me, they're sitting there diving for cover. But so they're taking my name in vain all over the place, I'm sure. But the bottom line is that you know, you have to let them know. And so I think anybody that wants to really be sovereign needs to be prepared to take them into court and abuse them and not be bashful about it. And you know, you need to be ready to do that, and you need to go on the attack. Okay, and when I say go on the attack, I'm talking about going on the attack administratively. You got to build a case. Okay, and that's what my procedure does. Okay, this builds a case. Okay, this lays a foundation so that I can build a case against them and get them fired at a minimum, and maybe get them in jail.
Will take you to court with us?
Sorry?
Will take you to court with us?
See, and I can certainly help, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one to do it. Now, you know, I can't be with you when you get stopped on the side of the road. Okay? There's no way that I can be there. So you need to be able to understand what you're talking about and be able to articulate it. And if I can help you after, okay, I'm available by email, and I can help you prepare your documents and all the rest of it. But the bottom line is though that you have to do it, and I'm not going to do it for you, okay? I mean, that's part of the learning process, is that you have to do it. I'll send you a template, okay? I'll send you a document that I did that's got lots of really good arguments and stuff in there, but you still have to go through the mechanics of describing what happened and how it happened and all the rest of it. And you can send it back to me after you're done, and I'll look it over and help you fix it up and juice it up and stuff. You see what I'm saying? I'll help you with that. But the bottom line is you have to do it, and I'm not going to do it for you. And there's a lot of people that, you know, I've sent documents to, and they never sent them back, you know. But there's some that have. You know, there's a guy right now that's in a battle with the city of Fort Worth. I probably shouldn't mention his name, but he's and he has. Okay, I sent him the documents. He's a pretty sharp guy, and so I sent him the documents, and he manipulated it and sent it back to me to review, and I looked it over and I added some comments. I put in Word is really nice because you can turn on track changes, and any changes you make are highlighted about who made the changes and everything. So. And then you can insert comments and do all sorts of things. So I've done that, and I sent it back to him, and so, you know, I haven't seen what he's done with it beyond that, and so I'm sure he's going to go and add some things and send it back to me, and I'll do that. I'll do that all day long, and I don't charge you for that, okay? I'll help you as much as I can. But the bottom line is that you need to do it, okay? That's part of the learning process and part of doing it, okay? Anyways, the burden is on the sovereigns to understand the law and to assert their sovereignty. All contracts must be entered into knowingly, willingly, and intentionally. I mean, none of them are knowing, willing, or intentional. That's what that one says, basically. None of the contracts by which you might lose your sovereignty are knowing, willing, or intentional, and they can't make them that way. If they did, that'd be treason on their part. So they just make a law that applies to the specific entities that they have authority over, and if you get involved in them, then that's the first thing you say. Is there a contract here? And you just like turning the lights on and seeing the roaches scatter. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times I've done this. Anyways, so the sovereignty of the people is unalienable. It means it cannot be alienated under any circumstances, and imprescriptible. It means they can't pass some statute that says you're not sovereign anymore. In order to regain your sovereignty, you must assert it. You must say, hey, I'm the king. That's all you have to say. Hey, I'm the king. What you guys got to do with me? When you assert your sovereignty in this way, you build a case with evidence you can use in court at a future date, should you need to do so. Okay, and the way that we're talking about is the way that we're going to go over here this afternoon. Send all documents. I always send stuff by registered mail. Registered mail is used if you talk to any postal clerk. It's used for international commerce. And when you're going from the land of Texas to the state of Texas, that's international. Okay, because you're going from the land of Texas to a region in the District of Columbia. Okay, that's where you're going. The state of Texas is a region in the District of Columbia. That's foreign. Okay, they still have an oath of office, and they still have a duty to protect your rights, but it's still foreign. And so that's international. Registered mail is kept under lock and key, and there's a chain of custody. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you want to use registered mail. The government attorneys may turn it over to a bureaucrat who may also respond off point. If they do, that'll be their worst mistake. You use it against them, you file a criminal complaint, and the next thing you know, they're out of there. If the government were to admit that you were right, they would be admitting to treason, extortion, genocide, multiple felonies. Okay? And so they will never ever admit that anything you said has anything to do with what happens when this guy suddenly disappears. The government attorneys will probably not respond at all. If they're smart, they won't. In order to be truly sovereign, you must be self-reliant. You must not only talk the talk, you must walk the walk. You got to be the king. And that's why I say that when we're done here today, that and you walk out, you can't say, well, man, I'm sovereign. I never knew that. Well, you probably could, but it's more than that, okay? You have to walk the walk. It's a way of life. It really is. And so you have to start rethinking how you do things, and you know, doing things differently, okay? And you know, example is whenever they want, they say, well, we need your social security number. Well, I ain't giving you a social security number. You know it's a felony to compel a disclosure of a social security number, you know, and just start getting into them with that. And refuse to give it to them. If they absolutely have to have it, then you take names and all that stuff, and then refuse to give it to them. Go somewhere else, okay? The banks are notorious for this. And I went to a bank at Walmart here yesterday. I was going to open a bank account. It was the day before yesterday. Anyways, they told me that I told them, you know, it's a felony to compel a disclosure of a social security number. They told me I was going to have to go down and get one. And I said, well, even if I got one, you know, it's a felony to compel a disclosure of a social security number. And the guy was like an idiot, because I told him, I says, you know, I don't care what some lawyer tells you over the phone. He doesn't commit the felony, you do, okay? And he was still prepared to do it, you know. And you know, I mean, hello, we need to start working together and going down to places like this with witnesses and arresting his butt, because if he commits a felony, you can arrest him right there on the spot. And especially if you got witnesses, then the cops come and they're not going to give you too much of a hard time because there's witnesses. You see what I'm saying? And get his butt put in jail, and you do that a couple times, and I guarantee you they'll change their procedures. But in the meanwhile, they're going to keep doing what they're doing.
Did you get to open an account?
No. No, I'll go somewhere else. There's banks that'll get it done. I mean, I don't care. I opened up an account at the Bank of Texas here, it was probably 2 years ago, without a social security number. And I just went in there and told them, and it was real nice. And you know, some of them will let you do it and some of them won't. I know other people that open bank accounts all the time. You know, I mean, it just depends on the bank and, you know, a lot of variables. And again, you know, Wells Fargo, what happened is we went into Wells Fargo, and they refused to open a bank account without a social security number, and so I filed a criminal complaint against them, and I sent a registered letter to their CEO and their chief counsel, and this idiots went and sent me back a letter saying that they were going to, some bankers association required that they get a social security number. So I filed a criminal complaint against them for compelling the disclosure of a sent it to the U.S. attorney, right? And then I didn't care what he did. This is my procedure, okay? I don't even care what they do. After 30 days, I filed a criminal complaint against the U.S. attorney for perjuring his oath, and he's a co-conspirator after the fact and all that, right? Sent it to the Attorney General. Next thing you know, he's gone, right? So then I did it again. I filed a criminal complaint against Wells Fargo Bank, sent it to the next U.S. attorney. And then after 30 days, I filed a criminal complaint against him, sent it to the U.S. Attorney General. Next thing you know, he's gone. And so then I figured, well, you know, I can't get them all removed. And so I gave up on it. You know what I mean? But now I hear that Wells Fargo will open a bank account without a social security number. So again, if you don't complain, nothing's going to change, okay? I don't know if you remember anything about the war crimes trials after the Second World War, okay? They had Goering, okay, at these war crimes trials, who was one of the Nazi henchmen. And they said to him, under what authority did you do all the stuff you did? And you know what his answer was? His answer was, nobody complained. So when you complain, you might not win your case, okay? You might not get $1 million, but I guarantee you things will change, okay? I guarantee you. I can't tell you how many times I've done this, and things always change. You have to complain, you have to bring up the right issues, you have to go in there as the king, okay? And if you do it right and bring up the right issues, I guarantee you things will change. Anyways, you have to not only talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. You got to be knowledgeable about the law and how it works. You got to be prepared to take the initiative and go into court if necessary, and you got to make it known and know in certain terms that you're all of the above. There are certain words that are used in martial law, because that's what we're under, is martial law. And we'll go through that. Residence, okay? Sovereigns inhabit a home and his abode. You don't have a residence, you're not a resident. You know, think about it. In a computer, is anybody a computer nerd here? Oh, you are, okay. So you know about TSRs, right? And TSRs terminate and stay resident, right? Well, what happens when you turn the computer off? It's gone, isn't it? Because it doesn't belong. That's what a resident is, okay? A resident is someone that doesn't belong. An inhabitant is someone that belongs. See? I mean, there's a difference. And so if you're a resident, you're only there, you're transit, you're there temporarily. That's what you are. You're not someone that belongs there. Traffic is another martial law terminology. Remember in Alberta, it was the Highway Traffic Act, or the Traffic Safety Act, I'm sorry. But traffic, that's commercial. Commissioner is another martial law terminology. Drive, okay? Remember, persons drive, okay? If you're doing it for hire, you're driving. But if you're not, then you're not driving. Human. I'm a sovereign living soul. A human is, remember, it's Human Resources, Department of Health and Human Resources, okay? You're a commodity. You look up in some law dictionaries and a human is a monster. The privilege against self-incrimination is neither accorded to the passive resistance nor the person who is ignorant of his rights, nor to one indifferent thereto. It is a fighting clause. Its benefits can be retained only by sustained combat. It cannot be retained by attorney or solicitor. It's valid only when insisted upon by a belligerent claimant in person. The one who is persuaded by honeyed words or moral suasion to testify or produce documents rather than make a last-ditch stand simply loses the protection. Once he testifies to part, he has waived his right and must on cross-examination or otherwise testify as to the whole transaction. He must refuse to answer or produce and test the matter in contempt proceedings or by habeas corpus. Okay? You have to be a belligerent claimant. You have to be ready to get up in their face. Do you know who you are? Nobody said it'd be easy, but it is possible. And what's the alternative? And that's the end of this.